Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Inky Thoughts podcast. As always, it's a very special episode today. I will never stop saying that, but it's extra special for me today because I've brought back my good friend from down under, technically by route of Spain. She's back on the podcast, the Bat Lady herself, the mistress of the goth tattoo. Xia is back on the podcast, but this time we're going to be talking about something a bit different and quite close to especially Xia's own experience in the tattoo industry, and also something I've looked at a little bit, and some few sociologists I know of have looked a little bit into, but it's quite understudied, this, I would say. But before I give the whole game away, Xia, would you please let people know who you are, just for the ones that haven't heard you before?
Well, I'm Xia. Hi, I'm a Spanish-Australian tattoo artist, and I specialize in gothic, dark kind of work. I used to work with, I think you remember this, but I used to work with bats, and that's how it all started, this kind of madness that I do at the moment. That's pretty much what I do. And at the moment, I'm traveling hips, so yeah, not staying in Australia that often, but yeah, that's me, basically, in a nutshell.
Yeah, you're in the States a lot these days.
Yeah, I am a lot in the States, correct. Hopefully in Europe soon as well. I have to go back home.
Yeah, you're missing Spain and the rest of Europe, but especially Spain, I know.
Especially the food.
Yeah, I mean, we're not going to get into Australian food today, but though I'm sure there are some spicy takes from Xia on Australian food or lack thereof. But this topic today actually came to me by way of me and Xia are good friends, as some people may know from the last she was on, and she's been on previous stuff I've done as well, and we've talked for years online. Sadly not in person yet, but one day hopefully. But this topic today came around because we've been talking a lot about your situation and the whole situation with the tattoo industry at the moment, and how rough it can be with the exacerbating effect of the social media aspect of everything. There's a lack of focus, I'd rather say, on the mental health of the artist, because I'll happily admit, as a social scientist, and I'm sorry for taking long to introduce the topic today, but I'll happily admit we've focused a lot on the positive effects tattooing, for example, can have on the client's mental health and what a person's sense of self in that. But we've not often talked about how taxing, to be blunt about it, it can be on the artist having to deal with, for example, the trauma that comes in through the door at times. Some people have want tattoos to get, heal, and that's a lot to share. But also just the stress of the nature of the job as well, which we'll also probably get into today. Living sometimes tattoo to tattoo, as some artists do when it's not oversaturated with clients, to put it that way.
Yeah.
There's a lot of different aspects with this that are not often discussed in regards to tattoo artists and their mental health. What's your own sense of it, Xia? Are people shy to talk about this stuff?
Well, it's a lot. I often talk to closer tattoo artist friends about this topic because I want them to be comfortable around me talking about this, right? But sometimes it's a bit of kept a secret a little bit, we don't talk openly about it. But for starters, tattooing is something that is extremely inconsistent, or is extremely unsafe. You don't have a normal job where you get a normal salary, you get a normal hours, you get that work and life balance that people are looking for at the moment. Is really hard to achieve. It's a bit more of a lifestyle for a tattoo artist, right? So and this is something I've actually noticed now more that I have regular friends with regular jobs, how they have all these things that they take for granted, and then when they book a tattoo, they assume that you also are going to have, and you're like, nah, that's not a thing. But there's also the idea that this is permanent body modification that you're doing daily on people, and how perfect you have to be every day, and how much pressure we put on ourselves every single day. I'm not talking for every single tattoo artist I know, but in general, that's the take. You have to be perfect all the time, and that affects absolutely everything in your life sometimes. You see, so, and then another problem that I'm seeing as well, talking to other artists at the moment, is the state of the economy is making everything very scary, because it's like you're looking permanently for a job, right? Even though you have a job, you're still permanently looking for work. So it's very stressing. It's very stressing.
Well, I mean, to stay at the last point at first here, because I think it's quite interesting. Because I mean, of course, I have a different perspective, not being a tattoo artist myself, and mainly looking like at the greater picture. But it seems very logical that, of course, it gets stressful when people are not buying, don't have as much cash to go and buy tattoos, because this is technically a luxury thing in the sense that it's not necessary for survival. So other things often come before using one's economy to buy a tattoo, no matter how much we want them. Trust me, I have often foregone other stuff to get a tattoo. Of course, many of us have. But that's, of course, why when it gets slow, it gets this risk sense as well. Because it's not like if it's slow, like you say, at a job where it's like, oh yeah, we just have a slow season. You still get the same salary. You still are paid monthly the same money. It's just not as busy. So then it has a different nature for people with a regular job, because it's like, oh yeah, it's just relaxing being at work at the moment. But for you guys, that's horrible, because you end up, if you're doing well, it may give you the false sense that, oh yeah, there's always going to be clients. They're just going to come in through the door all the time. But that's the thing. Nothing guarantees that. And you get a
100%.
very real sense of that
And then
when it starts to slow down.
Also, if you remove the economical side of it, for most of us, tattooing an identity, right? So when there's not so many clients coming in, you start questioning a million things. You start questioning, am I good enough? Am I valid? You know, people have abandoned me. People maybe don't like me. You start overthinking a lot, because there's a little part of you that goes with that. So it's not just a job. It's much more than a job. And it's hard also to understand for people. A good example is my mom. Every time I try, but you're making money. Like, it's not about the money. Oh my God. It's hard. And for example, when COVID happened, none of us could tattoo, right? So a lot of people, a lot of tattoo artists were dealing with a lot of mental health issues. And I remember having these long conversations with friends, like, this is going to end, don't worry. You're still necessary in society. People need you. You do much more than just tattooing. And I think it's important for us to actually do a little bit of an exercise of trying to find who we are apart from a tattoo artist. Because for a lot of us, that's who we are. That's it. So, yeah, that's something I actually...
Well, I think, ironically, it's much like we've talked about before as well. It's much like the thing you help others do with anchoring yourself through tattoos. You sort of need to find your own way of anchoring yourself, because else, when you can't tattoo, as you're very much saying, because it is this creative, beautiful, wild profession that's a mix of both service, craft, and artistry, but it also has this unique thing, as you are rightly pointing out, of it becomes a whole identity for those of you that are really into it and really want to go the distance with it.
Exactly.
So when you can't do what's so important to your sense of self, it becomes detrimental to your mental health if you don't have anything else to anchor it with it.
Exactly.
If you don't have anything, to use yourself as an example, if you have nothing else to be like, this is what makes me Xia, it's gonna be rough when you can't have clients in to validate the need for you and how they want your work and all that stuff.
Yeah. You take it personal almost, like, oh, people don't like me, right? But it has nothing to do with that. We're going through things. They have money issues, or something popped up, or they have to go on holiday, whatever. Like, you know, it means so much to you that sometimes you forget that for most people it's a service. It's crazy. So last year I personally did an exercise of trying to find who I am apart from tattooing, in case we have COVID 2.0 again and we can't tattoo. I needed to sit down and actually have a thought and find out who I am apart from this, because that's much more into a human being, you know? We're not just our job.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, there's been a lot of sociology done into this. I remember first beginning to think about this when I had a course called Consumer Society all the way back in my undergraduate degree. We're talking back in the 10s right now, early 10s. But the concept is that we used to, as people, define ourselves through our work. And back when we did that, when everybody from a professor to a carpenter would be solely defined by what they do for a living, we saw, well, they didn't know how to describe it back then, but basically looking back over these old texts and old research papers, you would now recognize it as mental health crises. Because when these people were laid off, for example, when Margaret Thatcher shut down the coal mines in Wales, these miners didn't know what else to be. And not only did they lose their livelihood, they also lost a complete sense of who they are.
Yeah, that's exactly.
And I'm not saying this to say, oh, every tattoo artist will be like that, but I'm saying this to affirm what you're saying, that if you don't know who you are outside of what you do, that can happen to you. You can lose complete sense of yourself,
Yeah.
and you then can't do that thing. I've had it myself when I was so focused on the PhD was the end all be all, and I wanted that, and when I found out that I wasn't going to do that, and it probably wasn't for me, I suddenly had to figure out, well, who am I outside of just this academic striving for the PhD, you know?
Yeah.
And even though I'm more secure in myself in that sense than many others have been, even I felt that. Even I felt that struggle of like, what am I going to be now?
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah, exactly.
Nothing can really immunize you towards this.
Exactly. And also, you know, how our job is obviously we do a tattoo, we provide a service, yeah, but we also listen to people. So I always felt very useful, right? I listen to people. People sometimes are going through something, right? So they talk to you and you listen, and it makes me feel really useful to people. So not having that was completely detrimental for a while.
I can imagine.
But yeah, I think one of the things that we should totally do as tattoo artists is find that sense of community as well, because there's a bit of a lack of it in the.
I mean, I think it's different from culture to culture, but generally speaking, there is less of it. There is this fragmentation that's often caused a bit by social media, where people find online communities sometimes rather than local community. And online communities can be beautiful and they can absolutely help as well. But having people near you that you trust and can confide in can be crucial.
Yeah.
To avoiding this sort of mental health deterioration.
Yeah.
So I agree with you. Finding more community will also definitely help, because it can also be difficult to navigate this on your own. Even though it's a very personal thing, it can help to have others that might have a similar experience, might at least just have some similar experiences with it, even if they're not exactly the same. And then you can sort of also not feel as alone about it.
Yeah, sure. And well, then another issue that we have as tattoo artists is not an issue, but it is what it is. Back in the day, and what I think most clients picture tattooing being is just you just sitting at home, someone contacts you, you drew a design, you tattoo it, that's it. And it used to be that way, but now you have to be almost an influencer, you have to be a comedian, you have to be good at editing, you have to be so many things in one. And you have to be learning constantly things that you never thought that you had to learn, or maybe that you're not even good at, or maybe things that you're not interested. Like we were talking about, I'm not interested in putting my face in my videos, but it seems that what you got to do now. And that's very, very challenging as well as a tattoo artist, having to manage all these aspects of the job which are actually not tattooing, and you need that precious time to actually sit down and draw and improve your skill. If you don't make that time, you're just going to stay always the same, repeat the same work that you have been doing for your whole career, right? And people improve as well around you, so you have to set the time for yourself to draw and become better. So even the hours you have in the day when you have to be tattooing are not enough. They're never enough. You have to always keep pushing. So it's a lot of pressure. Especially I notice it now that I have a partner with a regular job, right? And I see him going to work, and then he enjoys his weekends, and I'm like, why can I be like that? I have to draw.
Well, that's the thing. It's a difficult boundary to set, because I think tattoo artists used to be able to do that more. Like they used to be able to say, "Hey, I just have these days off." But as you're rightly pointing out, it has been exaggerated and exacerbated by social media putting it, because there's some lucky artists out there that have enough success that they hire a social media manager, and that takes away a lot of the stress possibly in that regard. But there's still extra pressure with putting yourself out there and suddenly not relying solely on, hey, look at the beautiful art I make. You want this on your skin, and it exaggerates the two other points. It becomes this perfect trifecta, because they sort of have a chain reaction with each other. Because the lack of economy makes you more at risk, and that makes you have to do more of the social media shit that you might not want to do and feel very personally vulnerable doing. And that then makes you feel even shittier, which may not, it just keeps running over into each other's cups, these different aspects of it.
Absolutely.
Because it would be one thing in a way if they were separate problems that could be dealt with separately. They are not, however. They are very much related to one another. Because for example, the service provided to the client when they're there, and how you can feel useful being a shoulder to cry on, or an ear to talk to, and somebody to talk about these things with, that's rough enough in and of itself. But then you also have the whole thing with, like, if they don't enjoy it, they might walk out, they may not come back for the next session or lose money. There's, all these things touch upon each other, whether you want them to or not. And that just makes it, I mean, I can't imagine the stress it adds, because that's the thing. Like I just said, if they were separate problems, that would be stressful on their own. We could sort of compartmentalize them and be like, oh yeah, I'll deal with this over here, I'll deal with this over here. But they're not. They're very much connected, and that just makes them all worse.
Correct. That's it. Also, the fact that we always try to do our best. Again, we're doing permanent body modification on people, so we always try to do our best. And sometimes people can forget that we're human beings. And I'm not saying, we're making mistakes left and right, but sometimes, things happen to our lives as well. Like, I remember in 2020 when my father passed away.
Absolutely.
And I had a week where I had to pretend that everything was all right, because my clients couldn't see that side of me. They couldn't see that I was sad. They couldn't see that I was dealing with this. So I had to create this persona at work that I don't know where I got the energy from, but it just happened, where I just, I kept being happy for them so they could have a good experience. And that was really...
But that's sort of the service industry part of it, that you put on the brave face no matter what's going on in your life, because you need to provide this comfortable atmosphere for the client. And of course, yes, sure. But I sadly think you're right in one thing you insinuated there. And I sometimes in my head call it the hairdresser effect, where I think people are very used to going to stuff like hairdressers and other stuff like that, where you also world-renowned when you go to the barber, hairdresser, you talk about your life, the situation, all that stuff. You have this personal conversation, but it's a much shorter time span.
Yeah.
And it's also a much less vulnerable position, both for the craftsman and the client. Like, it's hair. As personal and as vulnerable as hair can be to a person as well, it is nothing compared to having the responsibility over permanently altering somebody's physical appearance.
That is true.
That's one of the things. The other thing is also you spend so much longer with it, and it's in much more of an intimate context that often... I would love for people to do more research into this as well, and I would love to read it if anybody has done it. But I think that also leads to people opening up even more the exact vulnerable position. And that's not always a good thing. That's what people forget sometimes. That's the whole concept within psychology called trauma dumping, which also has made its rounds on social media. But it's a very real thing originating from psychology, that sometimes people aren't equipped to hear it. Like, it can be actually too much for somebody else to listen to something really horrendous that happened to you. And just because they're there as your tattoo artist doesn't mean they're equipped to be your therapist as well, in one way or the other,
Yeah. I notice actually a lot of people have an issue with that. Personally, I don't mind it, because it makes me feel useful to someone, but I know I'm very the exception of this rule. So I like when people tell me things and confide in me, and there's not much I can cope with, but that's just me. So I can totally understand when a tattoo artist says that, because it's true. At the end of the day, we're not equipped to give advice or tell them to do something, right? All we can do is listen. And sometimes I guess you have to ask permission to see if the person is okay with hearing all that information, because they can be going through something as well.
Absolutely.
Again, in my case, I don't mind it, but that's just the way I am.
No, but my point is more that also takes a toll on a person's mental
Yeah.
health, having to
Yeah.
constantly listen to
Yeah.
other people's struggles.
Yes.
Whether you enjoy being helpful like you do, or you struggle a bit with how to handle that, or have hold space for it. In either case, it still is also a massive burden to you mentally. Like, it's an extra thing to carry as well, even when you enjoy it. To listen to, oh, this person went through this traumatic experience. This person is currently going through this traumatic experience.
Yeah.
And of course, there's less of a toll on you when you enjoy it and you feel like excited helping to heal and that. But it's still extra stuff to take on top of the stress you might already feel.
And also think about this, putting myself in the position of other artists as well. Imagine yourself as an academic, right? You're taking an exam. It's a very important exam. You need to pass this exam. This exam is very important in your life, and you're trying to do it. And someone is talking to you about something extremely deep, and you also have to pay attention to that. So you need to have this skill of multitasking. If you're not a good multitasker, I don't know. I know some tattoo artists choose to put headphones on, which I think is valid because everybody's different. There's a lot of tattoo that suffer with ADHD or autism. There's a lot of neurodivergency in the industry, which I think that's one of the reasons for getting a job like this.
I couldn't agree more actually with that one.
Most of us could never work in an office, I believe. But
no.
But yeah, whatever they choose to do, it's a lot. It's a lot because remember, at the end of the day, what stays there forever is a tattoo. So you have to pay a lot of attention to that. So I think that's a skill that all tattoo artists should try to have, multitasking.
But I think like there's a lot of stuff to handle there. It doesn't surprise me when you hear artists that need to talk about clients with therapists sometimes, on some occasions, because you also need the place and space to digest what you hear. For example, let's say you had a client come in with something truly horrific that happened in the past. Like let's say they want a classic example would be they want the Medusa tattoo, and they have suffered sexual assault from a family member in their childhood. That hearing stories about such an experience can also be quite mentally taxing for somebody. It's not like hearing about, oh, you passed your exam, that's so awesome, that the tough university times are over for you. Of course, that's also can be very deep, but it's often quite joyful in a way. Or getting over a rough breakup and stuff like that. But listening to actual trauma for people, like I always feel I admire tattoo artists for having the mental capacity to do that when they can, because it's rough to do.
Yeah.
Even when you have more training to do it like a psychologist would, or even myself would as a sociologist, to understand it better and give advice and stuff like that, it's still taxing. It's still absolutely horrendous to hear about the gruesome things people have experienced sometimes.
Yeah.
So that's why I think that there needs to be more attention to this. Not that people should stop doing it, but it would be nice to see a culture develop among clients of perhaps asking, hey, are you okay hearing about this story? Are you feeling up for this?
Yeah, that was exactly my point.
Chances are you might not that day, want to hear that, or somebody might not feel like they can keep space for that, or
I'm also a person that that if you're going through something extremely tough at the moment, wait a little bit to get tattooed, because you might be getting
I would say that as well.
It's something that should happen when you are healed or in the process of healing, but in a further process of the healing. Sometimes it happens a lot with breakup.
Absolutely.
A lot of people come and get a tattoo right after a breakup, like the same way they would get a haircut, but it's something permanent. So I like them to sit a little bit on.
That's
and make sure they rush decision.
I couldn't agree more. Like that's actually a fantastic piece of advice, that it's better to wait till the healing is beginning, because then the tattoo will help to heal.
Mm.
But let's not talk too much about client mental health because we were going to talk about artist mental health
Yeah,
today.
correct. Correct.
But I hope you get my point that it is exactly because you can't avoid at times dealing with client mental health that as a tattoo artist you also need to be aware of and prepared for that.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's often ignored. Like you sort of by some people are seen uh, much like other professions as this soundboard that they just fire this off at
Yeah,
without any consequence, and you just go home and then go on with your day. But that's not how human beings, let alone tattoo
work.
artists, work. You don't just go home and then it's like, oh yeah, they told me about something horrendous. I'm just gonna put that over here
Yeah,
and then go home and enjoy life with my partner. You
yeah,
know?
yeah, yeah. That's absolutely it. I have a couple of examples of that I don't want to get into because I never talk about what happens in my sessions. But yeah, there has been
No,
a
no,
couple
no.
of times when I have been in my free time and someone is messaging me about something and getting deep into something, and I'm not in the right place or the right mindset to deal with that at the moment. Or I'm trying desperately to enjoy that little amount of time I have free, and yeah, sometimes it can be rough, man.
But that's the thing. Like, it's more than a full time job sometimes as
Mm.
well today with the
Yeah.
social media and the easy weirdly enough, the easy way people get in touch with you guys, because it's often through some sort of social media messaging where you're constantly
Mm.
technically available,
Yeah.
whether you want to be or not. And so there's very little backstage, to use a sociological term from Irving Goffman, where you can go and relax and charge your social batteries and feel like yourself and put your feet up, so to speak, because then you might get a message from a client, or somebody might have cancelled the session tomorrow, or you suddenly remember you need to design a tattoo for later that week. And I very much pity you and other tattoo artists for how there's very little time to go and be like, oh yeah, I'm just gonna be Xia now. I'm just gonna go enjoy my hobbies and have some time with my partner and just relax.
Mm.
Instead, it's like, oh shit.
The problem, and I think not many people think about this, is the guilt you feel when it's time to actually
Yeah,
relax. You can't do it. I actually had today off, right? And I was sitting there
yeah.
saying, it's my day off. I worked really, really hard this week. I've been doing doubles. Today is your day to rest. I was sitting trying to watch Supernatural and I was feeling so guilty. Like I shouldn't be watching TV. I'm not producing. I'm not posting. I'm not. And I was like, Alicia, it's your day off. You shouldn't feel guilty for
Yeah.
this. And it
I
happened.
think that's sadly a thing with the culture of tattooing currently that has sort of been.
Mm.
This is my own pet peeve. It's fine if you don't agree, but what I've observed as a sociologist and collector myself is that tattooing has sort of been infected with the American hustle culture mentality
Yeah.
of like no time off. If you're having time off, you're not doing enough. You could always be doing more and earning more and doing more and earning more and doing. But that's not how it works. And you're all creative, little, cute, artsy souls as well. You
Yeah.
need the time to be yourself because that's where you get inspired. Having
Exactly.
that time off is exactly when then the next day you think like, fuck, I saw this cool shit in Supernatural and I've got to make this cool design that's sort of based on that, but also this other cool thing I know of that I saw the other week. And then that's exactly where inspiration comes from.
You
It
nailed
doesn't,
it.
like some people say, and it's not said it's not done out of malice, but I very much hate the notion some people have that inspiration comes from just being with other artists who are also busy. That's not how it happens.
No.
It happens from being creative to alone or with other people, but also from being yourself, from having time to draw inspiration. For example, I have creative projects too. I'm working on a tabletop RPG lately, and I thought I just yesterday was just relaxing, and while relaxing, watching a Ghibli movie
Mm.
to do with a book I'm reading,
Mm.
just reading for fun, not a sociology book. I got an idea for the world building in that world and went in and wrote it down, and then I went back to relaxing.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. Inspiration hits when you can relax as well, especially when you're doing something creative. It's so important, even if you're not doing anything creative, to be able to relax and recharge.
Yeah.
But I would say it's even more important when you're working with creative
Yeah.
stuff.
You
You
nailed
can
it.
ask anything. Like people love to look up to like painters or rock stars and musicians, stuff like that. Ask any of them. They also need time to relax. They also take breaks. And that's when they get ideas for the next song or the next great painting or the next art sculpture they want to do and all that stuff. Ask any of them. I bet you they'll all agree. That most of them will agree with me. They usually get these ideas when they're like relaxing, because that's what I see some artists complain about too. I'm sorry for going on a bit about this, but they often go like, "Oh, I don't feel inspired anymore. I just do my style of the client's ideas." That's probably because you're not taking time off to be yourself and be inspired.
Yeah, you nailed it. Like actually burnout, it has a really bad look in tattooing. Like burnout sucks in
Absolutely.
any profession you got, but in tattooing, you can't. You just can't. It blocks you completely. Nothing that you can draw and draw and draw, and nothing that you draw looks good. You know what I mean? You have to be relaxed. You have to be happy. You have to be, you know what I mean? And that's when good ideas happen, and that's when those tattoos that make it big happen, because you are
Absolutely.
relax, and that's creativity for you. It sucks because I wish the more I grind, but it doesn't work that way. So now I'm going a lot.
I mean, but I get the stress though, because let's compare how with me wanting to write something.
Yeah.
When I have a writer's block, that doesn't mean I don't get food tomorrow.
Yeah.
Or I don't earn money.
Yeah.
When you have a creative block, you immediately feel, I would imagine, insanely stressed because you need to do this because you need the money.
Not even I need money, but I have the responsibility with the client. I told them to
also that like
exactly
creative.
And I never.
My point exactly. It's way worse for tattoo artists to get that creative block because there's so much writing on it.
Yeah, that's it. And you have to get out of it. Like normally what I do is actually watch whatever show I'm watching, or trying to see inspiring things, or going for a walk. Like I'm trying to do whatever it takes for me to get out of that place. At the moment,
absolutely,
I'm going to the country. I'm going to the country a lot, and it helps me so much. So much.
Yeah, but my point exactly is a beautiful point you're also illustrating here is taking this time to yourself should be considered in the tattoo culture part of the work, like it would be for many other creatives too.
Yeah,
it's this weird. I might get hate for this if anybody actually watches this episode, but there's this weird shaming culture of constantly needing to produce that originally people in the tattoo world were sort of against, it seemed, and now it's sort of been adopted instead, and you constantly need to be producing, and if you don't know how to be producing for social media and also be creative at the same time, then you're just one of the losers that don't deserve to be here. It's not okay. That like it's a very toxic culture to build for a very otherwise creative and socially personable profession. Like, it's strange to go and say, "Oh yeah, you want to take time to be yourself and get inspired and be creative? Fuck you. Go be creative in your studio and draw more and draw more and draw more." The thing is, drawing becomes way more enjoyable when you actually feel inspired to draw shit.
And you're better at it too. That's the reality of it.
I mean, I would imagine. I don't draw myself, but I've had a brother that was very creative always and drew a lot. I drew as a kid. But I can compare it to my own creative writing stuff. Even when I write academically, you do way more, way better when you're inspired, when you're out there just living, and then suddenly a new theory comes to you, or a new plot line, or whatever it is. And it's so much better than all the shit you might have forced down on the page just to do something for like 10 hours the day before.
Yeah.
So much better than that.
Exactly.
And it's the same thing with this. Like, you're just sitting there being like, okay, so we got to draw today. So I'm just going to draw bats. I like bats. Do bats. Even doing that, even though you know, oh, I love bats, it's still going to be shit compared to if you are out there and you saw a new animated movie or whatever, and you go like, fuck, that's so cool. And then you actually go home and draw something completely new and really inspired. And it's, I bet 100 times better than the 100 bats you drew the day before.
Yeah, exactly. And if you think about classical artists as well, they were paid by someone, right, to just exist. And they would spend years and years in one painting, right? But now with social media, we're forced or invited to create content every single day. Like, I can't draw every single day.
You can say forced. I'm okay. I would agree with forced.
That's the word, yeah, absolutely. And like even for me, recording what I'm drawing, because people want to see your process. Recording what I'm drawing, knowing that there's a camera right there, it's gonna affect the way I hold the pencil. It's affecting the way you know what I mean? It's not natural for me. I have to get rid of all
I
that
mean, you
absolute
just mentioned classical artists.
Mm.
You do know with some of the classical artists, for example, from near your original neighborhood of the world,
Italy.
some of the classic Spanish and Italian painters and French painters of masters of the ancient times, they would fucking they would quarantine a building if they were painting something in there. Like nobody allowed in to see it because they were so protective of their process. Not because of the skills really, but because of how they did not want to be watched working.
Yeah.
It's weird that we suddenly expect it to, and it's clearly come from social media. And some are natural, like fish and water to it. They are brilliant to it, and you could often tell they are so naturally charismatic on social media as well.
Yeah.
I don't hold anything against it, but it's weird to expect everybody to enjoy it.
Exactly.
It's so strange to be like, oh, so to be a good artist, you need to be watched. That doesn't make fucking sense. Have you met artists?
Yeah.
Of any kind?
Yeah.
Most of them used to be like, it used to be the whole idea even when we were kids, like in the 90s and early 2000s, it was still the idea that most of the best artists were these reclusive weirdos that lived out somewhere in the countryside. Nobody got to see what they did until they suddenly had it out in some gallery somewhere. You know?
Exactly. And you didn't even know what they look like. And that's what I eventually would like
Often
to go
not,
to, like to just, remove all this noise, because it's noise after all, social media, everything, and just focus on what I do. But we'll see.
I mean, it's a difficult beast to tackle social media because more and more people are getting fed up with it, but we don't know what's going to actually happen. And I personally would think it's rather going to change its culture and nature than it's going to go away. That's sort of where I am with it. But I would still be very much healthy for it to change to something else.
Same. And
because the thing is, the way it started actually wasn't so bad. I remember when social media first became a part of the tattoo world, and it was just pictures of tattoos. Some would post themselves as well now and then, a bit like in magazines, or they would more likely than not post a magazine cover with them on it or spread. But they wouldn't go out and be like, oh fuck, I gotta hire some photographer to do a photo shoot of me or follow me for a day to show off what I do. You know?
Yeah, from the moment you wake up in the morning, it's just crazy. How did we get here? Like, how?
It's like it's like almost like everybody's trying to become their own Truman Show in a way.
Yes, that's exactly. You just nailed it. That's it. And I'm really not interested in any of that at all.
No, I get it. Even though, ironically, I do a podcast with video, which I think is very useful when we're talking about tattoos and all that stuff. I've never been a guy that wants to be like out there or be seen or known. I'm much more comfortable being the funny, analytical ideas man and theoretical guy behind the scenes that just helps things make sense.
Yeah.
If anybody's listening and needs that, do give me a job. But so I very much identify with what you're saying here. I get that, especially with what the stuff I'm doing, even before social media, some people, if they got big enough or got on the right kind of channel or radio station, would also end up having their face out there. Not in this way. Not at all in this sort of way, where people are so interested in knowing, oh, what does Xia do for breakfast? Oh, does she go jogging on the weekend? Like, that's weird. Like, why would you want to know that about a perfect stranger?
And I think that from what I chat to my clients as well, it's affecting us tattooists. Most tattooists don't like doing this kind of things. Some of them do, like you mentioned, but most of us don't.
I've not met many that do like it.
But also clients are getting tired of being sold something, or being pushed something, of seeing the same person all the time. Like, buy my tattoo.
Absolutely.
It just gets exhausting for them as well. So I think a lot of people, like we were discussing before, they're jumping out of social media because it's exhausting.
I think they long for, and we sort of talked about it a bit before the camera was rolling, so to speak. And I think moving into an electronic market will help with this potentially. Because the thing people are missing, I think, is not being constantly told, hey, come buy this, but being able to browse again in the same way they used to be,
Yeah.
where they'd be like, oh, there's a cool tattoo shop over there. I'm going to go have a look. And if I like some of the work in there or like the artist, I'm going to go in and get a tattoo,
Yeah.
or I might come back and get a tattoo,
And
And I
what?
think people are missing that because the pressure, as you're mentioning there as well, of
Yeah.
constantly be like, I need money. Buy this tattoo from me. That's the sense it sort of gets, Even if it's not the case from the artist, that's the sort of veneer social media sometimes puts on it because the algorithms pushes you to be like sell, 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 sell.
And what I think the solution is
So,
at the end of the day with all this is what I said before: community. Like Instagram
yeah, I think
started in
so.
a very good way when it was like a community where we used to chat with each other, we used to comment, we used to go on DMs. I made a lot of friends when Instagram started. And that little community that I created
Yeah,
was really good for my mental health. So was for my clients as well. But now there's none of that. It's all like a marketplace. Instagram,
yeah.
TikTok, all that. It has become like almost a marketplace. And
Yeah, the social has sort of taken a backseat to the commercial in social media,
yes, you're correct.
which is sort of where the problem is. Because I'll happily admit, as a social scientist and social science in general, back when Instagram first started, sort of saw it as a beautiful thing because it was a very disconnected world and it was sort of a way for people to connect in a way. And it was much more of a focus on the social aspect of it back then. Now it's way more about advertisement and commercialization and commodification of stuff.
Yeah.
And thus you all become competitors in a marketplace rather than artists in the same field.
Correct. And that's not what tattooing should be. It's not like if we compare it to
No, I would agree. Yeah.
if you compare it to food, it's not like McDonald's. It shouldn't be like go 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 go, right? It should be like
Oh, that would be the nightmare. Take a tattoo studio where it's just like, oh, you go up to the cashier window and then you just go over to an artist that doesn't
yeah.
care and just
But it's
like that. That's the thing is, people think that's how. That's actually one of my pet peeves, and not to go down too much of a side topic, but because I've read up on history as the nerd I am regarding tattooing, people think that it was always like, the flash age, as some people call it, like in the 50s and 60s and 70s and stuff like that. It was just like this quick machine in and out. The artist doesn't care. That was a very brief window in the whole lifespan of tattooing.
Yeah.
Before that age, after the Second World War, basically, it was all custom work. The flash thing is quite a brief window in tattooing. It's a very brief time period to harken back to.
Yeah.
It's strange because even Ed Hardy, as Matt Lotter has shown in his latest book, with some letters he found from him and all that stuff. I can't remember exactly. But he has some primary data that he actually has taken this from. It's not just him saying he would have said this and claiming it in theory like some historians might. No, he's actually found evidence of this. And even he said that he was sad about the bicarification of tattooing and how it was all becoming flash and shit like that. Like, he said that.
Yeah.
So it's weird when other people nowadays that harken him as the god of tattooing back in the day and all of that, and use him to justify wanting to go back to biker age and like flash design stuff like that. It's weird because he didn't like that. It's like using Jesus to talk about atheism, and I'm an atheist myself, but even I would be a bit weirded out by people being like, no, this guy's definitely on our side.
Yeah. But yeah,
sorry, I couldn't help but say that but it's weirdly related to this as well, because a lot of them are like saying we used to have so much business back then, and all you are just crybabies nowadays, and you just need to go back to just that old childhood, just in and out. Why would you want that?
No, and it's really bad for mental health. That stuff, that kind of way of working, it should be more compared to fine dining.
Absolutely,
like something that is slow cooked, is well done, and it requires an expertise. And I feel people forget about.
But I think that you're correct in the community thing, and it's definitely possible. like in all sorts of ways, and I think it can happen, and might happen still.
Mm.
That there are some cultures out there where it does seem to be more of a community within because there's tattoo culture as a whole in general globally.
Yeah.
There's also little different pockets of it around the place,
Mm-hmm.
and we even spoke about this a bit before we started recording the episode. There's definitely a difference here and there, you know. Like we spoke about how in Australia, for example, you don't think people often are too keen on being like, oh yeah, let's take you out on a trip around this place. Some might be, but your experience is that they're way more like that in the States, for example.
Yeah.
And I talked about how it definitely seems like, for example, to my experience, that Scottish tattooers are way more familial with guest artists and that as well. That they're way more likely to be like, hey, come on, let's go out and see the local loch, or let's go see this castle, and so where that kind of community, I think the roots to grow it from are out there, and it can definitely be done. But it does take more people to also realize that that's a great way of also supporting one another, and to help get more clients and all that. And some do realize it. I'd say you still, luckily, I would say, meet artists that are like, hey, if I can't do it, I'll send it to this other person I know, you know.
Yeah.
You know, and stuff like that. And that's always great and very healthy to see, because that means you're not in competition, you're in the same field.
Exactly.
You know? You're not looking at each other like, oh fuck, if they have success, they're gonna fuck me over.
Yeah.
Like, you know.
But also that's what Instagram does to our mental health. It makes you focus on what others are doing, and obviously it's the highlight of their career or of their life, right? Doesn't mean that they're not struggling with something in their person. Like, you don't know.
No.
At the end of the day. And this comparison that comes with social media is absolutely ridiculous. Because I think
absolutely,
collaboration.
But it's also how you get these, like, oh yeah, sorry, you go on, see.
I was gonna say that I think collaboration is key. At the moment, I'm really trying to collaborate with other artists and try to find people that want to do stuff with me, rather than having that kind of attitude of like, oh, this person is tattooing the same style as me, I'm gonna hate them. Like, nah, man. Like, collaboration. It can be in the form of doing a tattoo together, or it can be like just chatting, you know? Maybe doing a...
Yeah, I mean, collaboration is many things. It doesn't mean you have to work on the same tattoo. It can be like having a little drawing get together. It could be having conversations with one another about the business. It can just be being supportive to one another, you know?
Exactly. And it helps both parties, and it's great. I've been doing that. I'm starting to find my little community, right? A couple of people here in the States, nice. A couple of people there, and it has been amazing. And it's helping my drawing as well.
But that's the thing. I do think there are some beginnings of more community thinking again here and there.
I think so too.
For example, a lady I put you in touch with at one point after mentioning her convention, she seems, for example, very community driven. A lovely lady, been on this podcast as well, Jennifer Edge. And I think people like you and Jennifer and other people are definitely starting to do this again, where they're like, hey, yeah, come on, we're all in this together. So let's be together, you know?
Yep.
And that's a great thing to see.
I'm actually really happy to go to this convention, man. I'm stoked. Because normally,
bit jealous, to be honest. She didn't even embarrassingly invite me on camera to go, and I can't go.
Yeah, well, but you know that convention is going to stay there for a while, or I hope so. So you'll have the chance.
Absolutely, I hope so too.
But
I definitely want to go compare some of the fantasy novels I've read and stuff like that with the artists there.
What you were saying about community, this is something that lately I stopped doing conventions. I did a lot in my career, and I stopped because very bad for mental health as well. I get extremely anxious, socially anxious. There's a lot of noise, a lot of shows, a lot of stuff going on. And it's rarely about getting to know other artists, creating this community, get closer to clients. It's never anything like that.
It's more about advertising and being the best.
Yes, there's a lot of popularity contest situation going on. And when you age, you start realizing like, this is not what I'm here for. But conventions like this, amazing. They even have like a little cosplay thing going on, and I can't wait to see that. I know. So it's clear that
I mean, not just that, they have, if you didn't watch the episode yet, Xia, she I can never forget the chuckle Jen told me this with, which just made me think like, you evil, beautiful witch, to be honest, like mastermind behind this. She was like, I was like, oh, so do you have like rewards for best booth? She just leaned into the camera with like, you best believe it, buddy, we have rewards for best booth. I'm like, great. I like that sort of like not serious, just for the fun of it. Like, oh yeah, who decorated the booth the best? Like, who had the best theme going on? That's great, because it's all meaningless anyways, the two competitions, because in the end of it, which actually pulls us back a bit to the mental health, because I think this is if I could impart one lesson that I also think would help tattoo artists' mental health a bit, is that people keep wanting other people that are in the industry to tell them, was this a great tattoo?
Mm-hmm.
Of course, there's a technical aspect to doing a good tattoo, but the main judge of whether it was a good tattoo is if the client is happy with it.
Yes.
And this is important to remember, not just in relation to other tattoo artists, but also in relation to yourself, because I know how hard an artist of any kind can be on themselves when looking back on their work. But you have the beauty that you could actually alleviate some of this pain, for lack of a better term, by thinking back on, okay, I might think that was shit done compared to what I do today, but the client still loves that tattoo. So it was a good tattoo, you know.
Come back. I'm sorry. There was 10 minutes
It's
left
okay.
anyway, so we should be good.
It's all right. I mean, I feel for a second I've gone too far. No, I mean, there was a cut out. Nice little technical issue did happen, but I'll just cut out the dead air. It should still work out perfectly fine.
Okay.
But yeah, but
Well,
I'm trying to remember what we were talking about. That's the difficult part. But all in all, no, wait, oh yeah, I remember now. It's just mainly, I think it's healthy for artists to focus on the whole idea of the client is also part of how it was a good tattoo. Of course, you want to do nice creatively, you want to do well skillfully and all that stuff you want to develop, but it's nice and healthy, I think, and it will be healthy for many artists if you start looking back on tattoos you used to do. And even though you can think, I can do better nowadays, remembering, oh, the client was actually really happy about that tattoo.
exactly.
So still a good tattoo.
Exactly.
Because you're very rough judges on yourself as well, you know.
Again, the perfectionism, and that comes from knowing that you're doing something forever. Like it gets really hard. So sometimes you're too tough on you.
I mean, I absolutely understand why you guys are harsh judges on yourself in this extent, but that doesn't remove the fact that it will be so healthy to sometimes remind yourself that, oh, it's actually still a great tattoo if the client loves it.
And tattoos, look, I know a lot of tattoos that actually caught my eye, not because they were the best technically done or whatever, but it inspired me to something, or there was something in it that I'm like, this is magical. You know, things I can't even explain. You know what I mean? It's just magical. It's ethereal.
You can, I mean, everybody that spends some time in the tattoo community around any kind of aspect of the culture will sometimes learn, quickly as you are a tattoo person or tattoo artist, you also start loving shitty tattoos sometimes, or like silly tattoos or whatever, you know.
Well, yeah,
it all has its own charm to some extent.
Yeah, I wasn't talking about
not
shitty
in that way
words,
shitty,
yeah.
but you know, no.
I'm just
No, but I mean, you start sort of also liking the fact that, oh, this might not be the best one ever, but the idea is great, or the fun concept is funny, or this was sort of innovative in a way, and
or the way it flows in the
that
body
inspiring in a
sometimes,
way
you know,
too.
like the appearance that it has on the body or the impact. That's as important, I think, as technicality, like clean lines and all those things, which is still important. But I'm just saying that sometimes it's not all to it.
No, I mean, I fully agree that that's exactly my point as well, that you can get lost in the source in a way with how artists judge each other, and then you judge yourself as an artist. But it's also important sometimes to remember that art is also very subjective, and different ideas and skill levels doesn't necessarily mean anything is bad.
That's correct.
It just means it's different.
That's correct.
The only places you can be truly objective in tattooing is when it comes to sanitation, safety, and health.
Yeah.
Like that's the only place you can be truly objective.
Yeah.
Because it needs to be safe for the client and the artist, and it needs to not endanger anybody's health in that.
I agree.
Outside of that, it's a lot more subjective
I,
of
I,
what
I
makes
agree
a
with
tattoo
that.
design really great, or what a style is, and
I
all that.
agree with
You know?
that, but interestingly, a lot of clients don't even notice that, or they don't pay as much attention to that side of
No.
it. Have you noticed this as well?
Yeah.
Because I discussed it with some.
I mean, I at least would guess, knowing what I do as a collector myself and a sociologist, that a lot of them don't have the knowledge to really know what to look for
I see.
or what to
I know what you
expect.
mean.
And some might expect too much, but way more people might not know at all where the bottom line should be with sanitation or health and stuff
Yeah.
like that. And others, because of the power relationship in the dynamic when you're getting tattooed, wouldn't say even if they know something's wrong.
Yeah.
So you sit there and take it. Like, I think you've spoken about this as well, that you might see somebody go and with gloves on and like scroll on somebody's phone because they're showing them something, and then they go back to tattooing. And clients might even know that's not okay, but they're not going to say anything because the person is currently putting permanent ink into their
Yeah.
arm.
Yeah, I see what you mean. Yeah.
It's a lot of power to hold, because you put a design and a stencil on there, but you could technically choose to just be like, no, fuck it, we're gonna draw a cock.
And how much fun that would be.
I mean, I know that's a rough and very comical example, but
I
it just
get you.
illustrates the power dynamic quite
I
well.
get you.
You could technically just be like, no, we're going off script. We're doing something completely different. I know this is a stencil of a beautiful Xena warrior princess tribute. We're gonna do something completely different.
And you know what? Regarding to that, sometimes because I don't want clients to be afraid of communicating with me. Right, the opposite, man. Like when they
No.
come here, I try to be well, and not I try to be. It's the way I behave, but I try to be as close as a friend as I can, because sometimes I ask, "Oh, do you like it where it's placed, or do you like the concept, or whatever?" And I feel that some people in the past have told me, "Yeah, I love it," and they might not mean it.
And then they didn't dare to actually say,
Now,
but that's the thing.
now I do have the experience to know, or to have an idea when, are you sure I'm not going to get offended if you want to move it? But yeah, back in the day, I didn't have the eye to know. When they tell me yes, I guess say yes. But yeah, now I do more or less can pick it up when I'm like, are you sure? I'm not going to get offended. And even if I got offended, who cares? It's on you forever, man.
But that's the thing, and I think more artists are sort of waking up to this. That I get it. The whole, like, for example, it's shitty if you have a lion head looking into the fucking armpit, or a woman that's like licking a nipple or whatever, But it is still on the other person's body forever, and you can absolutely educate and inform them of like, this is how it's probably gonna look if you place it this way. But ultimately, it's their decision.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
But also get to pull it back to the mental health side for tattooers. I get how that also can be nerve-wracking, because you have the experience to know almost before the client does at times how this might end up looking or feeling for them.
Yes.
If they want a certain placement. And you want to respect their autonomy, but you also really know you're going to regret this, because 100 people are going to ask you till next, before I see you for the touch-up, why the lion is looking into your armpit.
Yeah, that is very common, and that piece also is going to have your name for the rest of this person's life, right? So sometimes you want to talk to them, please don't do this because it's not a good idea and you're going to regret. And it's true, and it happens a lot with younger people that might have not got many tattoos yet, or I can have with anybody really, but I've noticed that in a lot of younger people, they're not listening, and you're like, well, okay, at the end of the day, like you said, it's your tattoo, but it's also your name.
This will happen.
So it's really hard to find the balance between doing what you want and doing what you know, because you've been doing this for a decade or 2 decades. That is not a good idea. It's very hard to find that balance as well.
But that's exactly that's already there, even ignoring all the other aspects of what we've talked about. There's already this balancing that can really be important to your mental health, and having the confidence to know, okay, it's not gonna harm me. They can do what they want. but I'm gonna educate them because I know better. Like the balancing this is also a mental health
Yeah,
act. It's
exactly.
also important for how you see yourself as an artist. Because you can't let pride go too far. Because people are gonna be talking about, oh, Xia, that bitch, she's really mean to me when I go and get tattooed. You also can't let them walk out the door with something that's truly horrible or they will regret, because that's also gonna come
Yeah,
back.
exactly. So it's finding the balance, man. That's the best you can do. And remembering that you're human. You can give people advice at the end of the
Yeah.
day, some people are gonna like what you say, and some people
Yeah.
are not gonna like what you say, but
Well,
you have to find the balance there.
it's a perhaps a great note to round off on, but that's the sort of crux of the whole matter, both for the client side of the mental
Hmm.
health aspects of tattooing, but also for the artist side, is that it's a people
Yeah,
business. If you just wanted to create art, you could paint
you're
walls
right.
or paint on canvas. It's a people thing, and that's the main crux of the whole thing, is this balancing. Whether you're talking about economics or the stress of making a living, or you're talking about the stress of the art and how it's permanent in the skin, or you're talking about the mental health of balancing traumas of different people, it all comes back to the fact of the matter that it is people interacting. You can't tattoo without people.
Exactly. And I think it's all,
Yeah.
just to wrap it up before my battery dies again, it's all about communication. As long as both the client
Yeah.
and the tattoo artist understand that they're working with another human being, and we both understand that we're both human beings with feelings, and we're trying our best to communicate, I think from the moment we understand that relationship, everything works.
Yeah. Well, it helps everything, to
Hmm.
be honest. Communication is key, as they
Yeah.
say. But to spare Sia's battery, we're gonna wrap it up quickly this time, and not and
Oh,
not because we did have a technical difficulty earlier, and you will have noticed a cut in this episode, which will be when Sia's battery decided to say no more.
but that's so me. You see, we're talking about human error. That's me. That's
Yeah,
yeah, life.
yeah. User error. But to round us off, Sia, is there anything you're looking forward to out of the convention? I luckily pointed you in the direction of anything you're looking forward to.
Yeah. So I was talking about collaboration before, right? So this year I want to start moving towards a more calm dynamic. So I'm trying to make my schedule a little bit more, allowing myself to draw more. I'm doing a few collaborations. I don't want to mention them yet too much, but it's very exciting. It's with other
That's okay.
artists and other brands, some artisans as well that I admire, because I have some hobbies that I never have the time for, like
Nice.
bookbinding. So I'm trying to do a project with, for example, this bookbinder, trying to create a leather book
Nice.
together, and I'm so excited about those little things, man. I've done all the grinding and the conventions and the winning competition shit, and I'm done for a little while. I just want to meet other artists, spend time with other artists, do things with other artists, and inspire each other. And I'm super keen for that.
That's fantastic. And what a great note to end it off on. Now, like last time, even though, again, if you don't know who Sia is, you've probably done the internet in the wrong order, because she's way more famous than I am.
Shut up.
But please let the audience know, where can they find more about you, and where can they look out for all the stuff you have going on.
Well, they can check my Instagram, Shia_tattoo. I'm on TikTok, but I barely use it, and that's that. I thought about starting other social media platforms, but probably what I'm gonna do is de-escalate that. So Instagram is the best
Yeah.
way to contact me, but real life is probably the best way to contact me. Come get tattooed.
And where do you currently work in real life? Where's the current
My studio is
studio
in
at?
South Yara. South Yara is in
Okay,
Melbourne.
South
Sorry,
Yarra.
it's an area
Okay,
in
thank you. I
Melbourne.
was about to say, for us who do not live currently in
I was so
Australia,
confident
we're in
about
South
that too.
Yarra.
Like, of course you know South Yara. No, it's an area in Melbourne.
I, I, I may have known, but I do know that other people will be like, South Yarra, is that Spain?
Yeah. Oh, I have to go to Spain, so that's another story for another day. But hopefully, I go to the
Yeah,
States as well all the time because I got my visa,
yeah,
and then hopefully next year I'll be in Europe, and I'm pretty open with
fantastic.
locations.
Hello, everybody. I hope you enjoyed this awesome return of Xia to the podcast. I always enjoy having her on and having conversations with her. And this whole episode was actually inspired by a conversation I had with her about how there's not much focus on the mental health of tattoo artists. And often we focus way too much on the beneficial effects tattoos can have on the client's sense of self and mental health and stuff like that, which is always great, but we need to pay more attention to the artists and their mental health and how the current nature of the tattoo industry and profession and the craft can affect that. So yeah, I hope this was enlightening for you. I know it meant a lot to both me and Sia to talk about on this episode. So yeah, and next time we are going to be jumping into something slightly related to this actually. I had the amazing opportunity to interview Lossy Bones from the UK, amazing tattoo artist and co-owner of the Heart of Glass Tattoo over there, and we talked about a topic very close to her own heart and mind, and also something I'm always very concerned with, and I've talked about before on here, which is the ethics in tattooing and the industry, and how what can be done to improve this and why it's so important. A topic I've talked about before, at least a little bit with some guests, especially with Kes Richardson, and also a bit with Paula Castle. So yeah, I hope you look forward to that one, and we'll see you in a couple of weeks.